when Marines called for a corpsman, what did it mean to you in that moment?
I had the worst job in Vietnam, but it was the most rewarding. I'd been wounded 8 times myself, but it didn't, 6 times didn't prevent me from continuing my job. And I know that I was the only medical asset that the Marines had. And so if they got wounded, I was it. I either had saved their life or they died. So that compelled me to be all I could be, to be the corpsman or the doc. And you know why the Marines call us doc?
Why?
Because they can't spell corpsman. or they wear out their Crayolas before they get that part. No punching, no punching.
Okay.
Unfinished business, stand up tall. Alpha cadence, we answer the call.
Hey guys, welcome to Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. There are moments in a man's life that happen in seconds but never really leave him. Not because of how they're remembered, but because of what they require in the moment they happen. In May 1968, in the Quang Tri province of north central Vietnam, Doc Ballard was serving as a Navy corpsman with Marines when that kind of moment found him. What he did that day would later be recognized with the Medal of Honor. What isn't always understood is everything that came after: the responsibility, the memory, the life that had to be lived forward from that point on. For Doc Ballard, service didn't stop there. It continued in a quieter way, making sure every veteran who didn't have the means were laid to rest with dignity, spending time with young people and speaking honestly about service, staying connected to the veteran community by supporting the National Medal of Honor Museum here in North Texas, working alongside nonprofit organizations like Air Power Foundation, continuing to show up for issues that matter, including the reality of veteran suicide. That's where this conversation is going, forward into the life that followed it, what it means to carry something like that, what it means to what it leaves behind. To have a Medal of Honor recipient sit down in this space is one of the highest honors this podcast has had. Mr. Ballard, Colonel Ballard, thank you very much for being here today. We're here at the lovely King Ranch, Doc and Donna's estates, and I'm so excited to have come down here and finally walk into their home like they walk into mine. So I'm very appreciative that you're here to be on the podcast. I just wanted to say that.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to have a platform that I can reach other veterans.
Yes, sir.
So I will enjoy this.
Yes, sir. When you listen to the intro, what stuck out to you?
All of us have challenges, and we don't know what we don't know. And unless you've actually walked in the shoes of the individual that we're reflecting on, we really don't know much about that person, what challenges he had or she, and what difficulties they had in fitting back in society, and how they cope with their problems today. So there's a lot of messages in that introduction that has to be analyzed on an individual level, because all of us are individuals.
Yes, sir. Doc, when you Doc, before Vietnam, before any of this, who were you and what kind of person were you back then?
Well, I got married at the age of 17 while I was still in high school. And I had a goal of becoming a dentist. So I worked at the college, the dental college in the prosthesis area, where we made false teeth, crown and bridge. And so we did the behind the scenes support. And that's how I earned my tuition to go to college at the dental college. So when I ran out of money, I looked to find another source of income. And my personal dentist was an Army reservist, and he was in the National Guard. And he told me that the military offered an opportunity for them to pay for my education And the only thing I had to do is pay it back by serving in the military. That sounded pretty good at the time. All my family had come back from the Second World War as veterans. So I was taught early on that you can't live in this country for free and that there's a price to pay. And you do the best you can at that, paying that price, or you find another way of paying that price. So for going into the military, it was not about going to war. It was not about anything except my tuition, primarily. I felt the need to want to serve. So that added to the ability for me to make the decision that, yes, I'm going to earn my degree and I'm going to learn how to be a dentist and I'm going to serve in our military being a dentist. So that's why I joined the military.
Yeah, that seems to be a common denominator that a lot of men and women when they're younger and 18, 19, 20 years old, they're saying, well, what am I going to do and how can I want to go to college. When you reflect upon that time when you decided, do you say, were you able to go to college after you get out, or how did that go?
Well, I started junior college because it was in my backyard right there at home, and so it, right out of high school, right into another form of institutionalized education, was pretty common at that time. Although I tell the kids today when I speak to a lot of youth that you talked about is that they're lost or they have no guidance or they have no direction. The military offers every job that the civilian has. And you might have to change uniforms, but that's what life is all about. Life's about choices. So I did. I served by joining the Navy. I served with the Marines, and I retired out of the Army. So
Wow.
Life's about choices, right?
Yeah.
So I chose to take different paths for different reasons, for different benefits. So I tell the kids how to look at the military and just an extension of their growth, and that by going in the military, it offers them a slow down period where they can absorb some of life, learn new techniques, learn new skills, learn stuff that they would not have had an interest in learning. But by getting that broad scope of training and exposure, it helps them make decisions, helps them become a man or a woman, helps them be a better, well-rounded person. So in all, I'm not a recruiter for the military, but yes, I am. I believe all Americans ought to serve in some capacity, either with the military or in support of the military.
When you reflect back, and that's a great, I love what you said about, everyone should. When you reflect back, what did that responsibility mean to you at that point in your life?
Well, again, my family were a World War II and Korea veterans.
Okay.
So I felt an obligation to want to serve. I wanted also to take advantage for my own personal benefit. I just didn't want to go serve and not accomplish something. So I set a purpose of wanting to be that dentist with the idea that I could come out of the military someday and become a dentist, So you go in with goals, and then the military was just a vehicle to get me where I wanted to be.
Yeah. I was thinking about it as we were talking about responsibility. Do you think that a lot of individuals, when they join, they don't know what they're getting themselves into, per se?
100%. No, I went to the Marine Corps first, and the guy says, "We don't need no stinking dentist. Go across the hall." And that was the Navy recruiters. So that's how I signed up in the Navy, because the Marines told me to go over there.
Yeah, that's funny. That's crazy.
I had no knowledge of what I really wanted to be. I was lucky that growing up, that my personal dentist was a military guy. So he had the brag wall. I could go waiting for my turn to be treated. I could see him on a tank, or I could see all the good parts of the military. I never got to see any of the bad parts.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued with the military even long before I was 16,
Yeah. Is that part of the reason you educate people when you go to the schools? You talk about the military is to educate, to close the gap between understanding what it means to serve and what the responsibilities you hold.
100%, because going into the military, you're not in charge of anything, as you know.
Yeah.
So the issue is go in, get the exposure, get the skill training, become what you later decided to become, because they don't know what you're going to be. You don't know what you're going to be. It just happens. And it happens over a period of time that both of you, the military as a whole figures out what you're good at, and you figure out what you want to be good at. So you end up where you need to be by choice, but also by design.
When Marines called for a corpsman, what did it mean to you in that moment?
I had the worst job in Vietnam, but it was the most rewarding. I'd been wounded 8 times myself, but it didn't, 6 times didn't prevent me from continuing my job. And I know that I was the only medical asset that the Marines had. And so if they got wounded, I was it. I either had saved their life or they died. So that compelled me to be all I could be, to be the corpsman or the doc. And you know why the Marines call us doc?
Why?
Because they can't spell corpsman. or they wear out their Crayolas before they get that far.
That's funny.
No punching, no punching.
Okay. When you think back in your story, when you think back on that day, what stands out to you that people don't usually ask about?
What was in my mind and why I did what I did, because most of the people that receive this are either dead and can't tell their story, or they killed the enemy, which was important. I mean, that was not my mission. My mission was to keep our Marines alive and get them home as best I could to their loved ones. But there was times when I had to kill also. I killed 6 Vietnamese soldiers. 3 of them was with my knife.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you want to screw with me?
No, I don't want to screw with you, sir. No.
That's part of my... People don't know how deep the water is until they get into it.
Yeah.
And that's the same with you're talking to a veteran. You don't know what he's been through. How do you expect me to come home and be normal?
That's true. Yeah.
And that's the question I ask the kids. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You can't look at me and say, oh, that guy screwed up, or that guy's overcome his challenges, or there's no analytical equation that means anything to me as the veteran. Thanks for your service. All that is rhetoric. Some of them are thanking us because they didn't have to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And so my comment is, well, you were worth it. I served this country to protect you and your family.
Yeah. Said that your actions, the actions you took to save Marines, were built was instinct, right? What do you think that instinct was built from?
Love. I certainly believe that this medal represents love. I love the Marines for saving my life. They love me because all Marines love their doc. It's because I was the only medical asset they had. We had no ambulances. We had, the only evacuation we had was the helicopter, and there'd be days it couldn't fly. Bad weather, enemy activities, a lot of things that caused us to have to change our course of treatment from scoop and run to stabilization before transportation. So we developed the golden hour. We developed everything that's on the streets right now in the cities of America were brought home by the medics and the corpsmen in combat. We practiced airway management. We did hemorrhage control. Everything was done. And there was no paramedics or EMTs on the street of Dallas, Texas, or anywhere else in the country prior to Vietnam.
Wow. That is that's mind-boggling to think about, that there was no infrastructure to care for people in our own country, and that whatever in Vietnam, what was built was being built in Vietnam, literally, right? I mean, it came back and became part of our system.
It is, and most people don't identify with that.
Yeah.
They don't know. Here again, you don't know what you don't know. But we also had the ability to treat by trial and error.
Yeah.
The Marines are part of the GI issue, but they had a choice: let me treat you or die. So we tried different things. We tried different techniques. I was credited with saving 79 lives because of a different form of treatment that I provided. And I had, prior to going to Vietnam, I worked in the orthopedic and neurosurgery department. And we'd go in and clamp off the arteries so that we could control the hemorrhage while we were working on whatever the parts that we were working on. So I did the same thing when we ran out of battle dressings in the field. I would clamp off the arteries, tie them off, and then I'd recover the hemostats or Kelly forceps in order to use them on the next guy. I didn't worry about infection. That was for the guy in the rear to worry about. My job was to get him alive and keep him alive until he got back there.
Wow. What an awesome responsibility to take on, and so many, in a very fluid situations, right?
Yeah.
Very active situations. When you look on that moment now, do you see it as something you chose or something you were placed into?
Both. I think God had his hand in my shoulders, leading me and pushing me, and sometimes pushing because I didn't want to do what I was required to do. And it brings relevance, but also responsibility. As I said, I had the worst job in Vietnam, but the most rewarding because those guys love me.
Yeah.
And I met them. I stayed in contact with them much, even, years later. Even today, I've talked to different veterans that I saved, and that's more meaningful to me than this trinket that I wear around my neck.
Wow, that's like mic drop moment. We could stop this podcast right now. It's such a heavy thought that, like you said, you feel like, love, this represents love, and that you had the worst job, but the most rewarding, which is such a, like polarly, I don't think people could grasp that, right? Could you add to that? Could you add to that?
I can share my experiences, but what I don't want people to think that if you join the military, you have to go fight.
Yeah.
That's 90% of the jobs in the military are in support of the 10% that's actually doing the fighting. So a lot of people go into the service and never get to see combat. To say that I did something extraordinary was me all along. I've served in uniform since I was 6 years old. Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts if they let me in. But I don't have PTSD like I did when I first came home.
Yeah.
Like some veterans tell their story, I suffered. I went through dark times. I went through suicide attempts. I went through losing my wife and 2 kids because I had a wife and 2 kids before I went to Vietnam. So I wanted to get home as much as the next guy. But when I got home, they weren't ready for me. Dark time here in the country. We were the problem. We weren't part of the solution. The Vietnam veterans were treated very badly when we came home, and it just added depth to my problems. Because I had no one to talk to. I had nobody that I could confide in. That's why I went back in the military, because at least the people in the military understood me. Where the civilians can't possibly understand. They can't even walk in my shoes, let alone evaluate my attitude.
Yeah.
And so when I go to the VA and they're trying to tell me what's right and what's wrong, I laugh at them because they've never seen combat. They do not know what I went through. And the doctors in the VA and other psychiatrists, they can't help you. But they can guide you where you can help yourself.
That is true. That is so true. I was gonna say, like, it was something you said was like really impactful when you're talking about how you actually understand, that you went through struggles, and you understand that a lot of veterans, like, I shared a little piece of my story too, it's like,
Sure.
and you don't know what you don't know is one of the biggest. If you don't know what you don't know, you can't be consciously, you can't consciously grasp what you're dealing with. One of the one of the things I did before I got deployed was get married, and the psychological pressure of that alone. Can you speak on that? Like,
Well, yes, I can. Again, I was married at the age of 17, like I knew what I was doing. I had 2 kids, and I wanted to get home as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend getting married and taking on all that baggage if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Waiting. I kind of look at the military as another stepping stone. Go, you're outside, you're coming out of high school, take that other step. Go learn some other skills before you make up your mind. It's going to control your rest of your life. So get that exposure, get that knowledge that will help you make good decisions later on in life. So that's, again, I'm not a recruiter, but I believe I spent 35 years in the military. I'd still be there today if I was capable.
For the record, my mom was really mad that I got married before I left, and because she knew the pressure I was already getting involved in.
We make mistakes. You made yours.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. From that time in your life, what from that time in your life stayed with you the longest?
That's a good question because it's not a surface answer. It's depth. The fact that I was messed up, the fact that no one understood me, the fact that my family left me, the fact that I had nowhere to turn to, pretty dark.
Yeah.
And I surrounded myself with like-minded people that understood me, that they never walked in my shoes, but they were closer than the civilians were. So that's why I chose to go back in the military. And I recommend that we stay connected. If we're a veteran out here, we need to go back to our reunions. Go back to the group. I did not for years and years because I didn't want to know who lived and who died. My job was to treat them, get them on a helicopter. Hopefully I never saw them again. You see?
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to know that they died. I did my best I could, and now it's up to God and the guys in the surgical tent back behind us.
Yeah.
So I did not take my own advice. And as we get older, we learn our mistakes, and we learn that we could have done things differently.
Yeah.
And as you have, you surround yourself by accident sometimes, and by choice sometimes, with people more knowledgeable, more understanding, and more willing to work with you and help you get through your challenge for that day.
People see the Medal of Honor. You've had to live with what came with it. What's something about carrying that recognition that people don't really understand?
Well, what is a war hero supposed to act like? I'm tougher on myself than I'll ever let you be on me.
Yeah.
I'd kill you before you mess with me like I mess with myself.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to mess with you.
Well, the point meaning is that the hardest person to deal with is yourself. You can turn away from other people, but there's no space where you can get away from yourself.
Yeah.
So it is what it is because you allow it to happen. We are in control of our activities to some degree.
Yes.
But we certainly can worsen them because of attitude. So that's why we try to help the veterans that need a helping hand. We don't give anybody a hand out. We give them a hand up. And we try to help them help themselves.
Yes. You've made sure veterans who didn't have the means were laid. You've made sure veterans who didn't have the means were laid to rest with dignity. What led you to take that on?
Drinking habits myself, and seeing so many of my buddies, Vietnam guys, dying, Agent Orange, different effects. At the age of 60, I went back to college to become a practitioner.
Wow.
I own 2 funeral homes today based on the fact that I wanted to be there to help. I bought the first one with the idea of completely giving everything away free. The problem with free is you don't pay the bills. So I had to get a second funeral home going in order to pay for the first one. So I'm there when all else fails, and I was not, it's not being a corpsman, it's just being helpful. It's being there for the community. It's being there to pay respect to the veteran. I had a first sergeant in the Army die, and he was not entitled to any benefits. And he spent 30 years of his life, but he got in trouble at the last minute and, didn't qualify, lost his benefits. In my book, in my eyes, he was overqualified and he made a mistake. So I stepped up and I did his funeral for him. And I made sure that he got the honors and the respect that he deserved.
That's amazing. When you were 60, you went back to school, number one, to just follow through and have that, unfinished business is the name of this podcast. Yep. How does that phrase unfinished business resonate with you when I say it?
Keeps me alive. Because if I had if everything had been accomplished, I wouldn't have a job tomorrow. So my attitude is I'm saving one more person. I'm trying to help another veteran. It's unfinished. My job is to do what I can for the people that I'm responsible to. And as a corpsman, as a funeral director, I can take care of you dead or alive.
Yeah. Let's talk about a topic that we both are familiar with, veteran suicide. What have you come to understand about that issue that people don't always recognize?
So what causes suicide? That's the age-old question. It's a man not being able to deal with his own demons or his own problems. I would kill you before I'd kill myself. So I don't have the mindset that, oh, poor me, I can't deal with this anymore. I have nowhere to turn, So suicide to me is totally wrong. There's no room in my life for suicide. Yeah. And so my goal is to reach out to those 22 a day. We're losing more by suicide than we did by combat. Something's wrong. Yeah. And a lot of us copycat, a lot of us give up, a lot of it is lack of purpose. So, my new venture into this nonprofit is just all about that. We want to give a new sense of purpose. We want that veteran at risk to know he's got a family to turn to, because we'd treat them in the hospital or the clinic. They'd go home and, an hour or two later, they're back into old poor me syndrome. One of my better friends had lost 2 legs and an arm, and what's he got to live for? Yeah. He can't get in and out of the bathroom by himself, without the aid of the motorized wheelchair. So what purpose does he have? So we work, that's where my motivation kicks in, is to help the people that are deserving. He didn't just get that injury because he was fooling around. He was protecting me and my family. I love him. Yeah. And so I owe him. All civilians owe the military, and they just don't understand. My job is to prove, the worth of the veteran, and the cause, and the price of freedom. For us to want to create a sense of purpose, a sense of quality of life, develop a new family, he can roll over to this radio right here behind us in his wheelchair and start communicating with anywhere around the world, certainly right close. And, there's not one person on that radio listening to him that even sees that he's disabled. Whole new quality of life. Yeah. That's my goal, is to help them understand the benefits of this hobby that saves lives.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about that. I have that question about ham radio right now. We'll just bring it up a few down the road, but I'm going to get this one right now. Let's go ahead and hit that. Ham radio, what is it about that form of connection that matters to you, and what have those conversations meant over time?
Oh, it allows an ordinary person to treat himself. We all need help. I did. You have. All of us have gone through the darkness, and we survived because, well, we had encouragement from other people. But at the end of the day, we corrected our own problems.
Yep.
So I see the radio as a vehicle that affords them an opportunity to set their problems aside for a few minutes and talk like they didn't have a problem. No disability. You know, I mean, I've got a face for radio myself.
We both do.
So the issue is, if I was half of my face was blown off, or my eye was knocked out, or you know, if I look the part, that I don't want to be embarrassed by going to public. This is a perfect way to segue it into a new quality of life, new sense of purpose. So at the end of the day, he can treat himself 24 hours a day.
Yeah. The dialogue you've had on ham radio, is there one particular story that sticks out in your mind where you're like, this one story where me and this veteran shared something? If you want to give a little tidbit about that.
I will. You know, this is worldwide.
Yeah.
800,000 people just in the United States.
Wow.
And we're growing. We're going to double that this coming year. So our whole mission is just that, and encourage people to want to take up the hobby. The perfect answer to your question was out of California, where you were. California VA hospital out there has been on record saying that we introduced the ham radio. They have a radio station in the hospital, and they have reduced the suicide rate from 66 down to 0.
Wow.
Why? Well, it's a sense of purpose. It's a study that the government's not willing to do. Now, the VA did not do this. It was individuals within the system. So the VA either cares or don't care, depending on where you are and what your problems are.
Yeah.
And then we exacerbate that ourselves by being bigger problems for them. You know, some veterans are just, you know, we are our worst enemy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So that was the best story for me, is the guy with the amputee, you know, triple amputee.
Wow.
No quality of life now, is doing better on radio than I am.
Wow.
So between the VA's employees that took the initiative on, hopefully someday we'll get it throughout all the VA system. You know, what perfect. Now we're going to the American Legions and the BFWs, and we're using that as a recruiting tool for that organization. You know, they're dying on the vine. They have no interest. These kids have no interest in supporting them.
Yeah.
But if they put something that's interesting for the veteran to do besides smoke and drink, now they develop a new sense of purpose. They create that hobby. They fund it for the veteran so he can come down and want to join the Legion.
Yeah.
We're setting up a national organization, and we're going to recruit to that mission.
That's amazing. And for the record, in the background is a radio system back here that is that simulcasts conversation. What is that? Explain a little bit about what I'm looking at back here.
Well, different pieces of equipment accomplishes different things.
Okay.
So you develop that on a one-to-one base. If you only want to reach the neighborhood, you can use a hand-to-hand walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
And then you expand the ability of the equipment to reach whatever you want to reach. Like the antenna we have outside, 60, 80 feet, 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
And different than a handheld 3-inch one,
Yeah.
So you got wattage, you got voltage, you got amperage. It's a whole new realm of understanding the emergency broadcast system, because it was here long before cell phones.
Yeah.
And it'll be here when the cell phones quit working. So again, there's we have a lot going on here.
Yeah.
And take the rest of the podcast to explain.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is that it's individualized to your desires. I talked to Japan. I talked to Germany.
Wow.
And Australia just the other day.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it serves as a means of conversation and connection and engaging in dialogue with one another. Agree?
100%, and that person doesn't know I'm disabled.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
true.
the secret sauce is I can be myself. Matter of fact, I can develop a new self
Yeah.
without anybody being judgmental.
Air Power Foundation. What is it about that work that keeps you involved?
I've been on board several years. I met Rex there as well. I think that they are an organization that's a pass-through. They don't have any mission or project outside of helping the already existing nonprofits. So they vet nonprofits that come and ask for grants. They raise money in order to fund the other nonprofits as grants. So they don't have a program. There's no waste and abuse when you don't have a program. You know, they have one staff person, and the rest of them are all volunteers, as myself. And my attitude is it's probably one of the better nonprofits that I'm familiar with. When I got injured, I dropped all my nonprofits. I was in 33 nonprofits.
Well,
So when I got injured and I had my challenges, the only organization that I loved and stayed with was Air Power Foundation. And because they do more with less than anybody else.
yeah, I've been completely. I've been a part of two organizations, and this is the one that I'm gonna stick around for a while because I really love what they're doing. I love the system they have in place and the reach. That's been really impactful.
Well, we do need to help them. All nonprofits need to make a profit
Yeah,
because we can't keep the doors open if we don't. But 99% of their money that they raise goes to other nonprofits to fund their mission.
yes. Shout out to Air Power Foundation. We've got two guys here that are representing the cause. We love y'all. National Metal Honor Museum. Wanda Cox gave me a call and told me a little bit of the story about your influence in having it be in North Texas, in Arlington. What does it mean? What does it mean to you to see that taking shape here?
Well, Texas in itself is patriotic.
Yeah.
Most patriotic state does more for veterans than any other state that I'm aware of. So if I had a choice, and I did, we reached out. I was on the original board for the museum in Mount Pleasanton, South Carolina. It's aboard a ship, and it's still there today. That's our headquarters.
Wow.
But we wanted to grow it because the ship was sinking, and it was we needed to get a land-based museum. So we reached out to the four lower 48 states to figure out who would want us and who would fund it and who would treat the veterans right. And we went through all of the states. And it actually boiled down to two states, Denver, Colorado, and Texas, Arlington, Texas. I attended every event that we had in Arlington, Texas to show my support for Texas and to show my support for the mayor of Arlington. I was at an Air Power Foundation meeting and Sid Epps, who was the president at the time, said, "What's up, Doc?" I said, "Oh, I never heard that before. What's up, Doc?" And I said, that's my humor speaking. And he says, "What are you up to?" And I said, "Well, we're going to be looking for a new home for the Medal of Honor Museum. And we're going to try to name it the National." "Oh, well, I got contacts down here in Texas." And I said, "Oh, I figured you did." And so he called the mayor of Arlington and gave him the information. He said, "Doc's in town, let's meet with him and talk about it." So we did. And so Arlington assured us that they had the interest and had the means of pulling it off, So it was an easy task for me to convince our group that we didn't have to close for winter, as Colorado did. So we're open more. We have, and other than smoking marijuana out there, they don't have anything else going for them. Maybe paying for gold sometimes, some places. But Texas is much more respectful, and I mean that as a patriotic statement. I'm not talking politics, 'cause, not going there. But the whole issue is, I fell in love with Texas. I fell in love with everything that Texas does for the veterans, and I thought it would be the best home for the museums. That's why I fought to have it brought to Arlington.
So,
Let me plug the museum,
Yes,
because it's not
absolutely.
like any other museum.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of trinkets in there. You don't go in and see collectibles. It's all about education. It's all about educating the youth,
nice.
the new leaders of this great country. So I'm 100% supportive of their attitude and how they present military history.
What part of your life has meant the most?
Well, as I get older, I have a tendency to make better choices because I get exposure to different skill sets and different desires. I'm completely retired. I mean, I still do funerals, but that's not a job. I take no money. I only do it out of a passion. I do it because I can.
Yeah.
I'm licensed, and I don't have to make money on the veterans.
Yeah.
So for me to take on this new passion of helping the veteran before he needs a funeral.
Yeah.
Hey, how about let's get ahead of the curve and let's make him happier. Let's make him healthier. Let's make him more, whatever the word normal means, because I don't know what that word means.
Community ready. How about
Get back, get back to where you're comfortable with your life and you're kind of enjoying more of it than you did last year, or the year before. So that's where I feel like I've enriched my own quality of life by helping others, and I'm going to continue to do that by because the radio saved lives.
That's great. The name of your nonprofit, what's the name of it?
Triumphant Spirit Foundation.
That's beautiful. All right.
It's been around 30
You
years.
got a website? What's the website?
Well, it's Triumphant Spirit Foundation.
Okay. Try Foundation. Okay.
Yeah, let me
.org.
.org
Okay.
is one of them.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, triumphantspiritfoundation.org.
That's beautiful.
Now, we sell stuff, and let me restate that.
Yeah.
We don't sell a thing.
Yeah.
We ask for donations, and we've got merchandise right here. We sell the Medal of Honor book. We have, it's got autographs in it.
Yeah.
We have the My Challenge coin that's got my ham radio on it, licensed. And, can you see that one? Yes. One side's about the Medal of Honor Society, and the other one's about my personal travels and how I've lived it. And then we've got a very special gift and people can use the gift themselves, and that's the cowboy buckle.
That's awesome.
Medal of Honor buckle that, it's illegal to wear anything Medal of Honor. But this one here is designed in such a way as that you're supporting the Medal of Honor recipient. You're not claiming that you are one. So it's been approved by anybody and everybody that wanted to chop on it. And we only made a limited number, like 1,000. So they'll be worth some money someday, more than what they're paying for it today. It's solid for $100. We've already been offered $5,000.
Wow. That's great. It's beautiful. Matches all my gold. So, I need to.
We'll sell to you cheaper.
Okay.
Veterans discount.
Where is this guy? All right. 5%? Just kidding. Let's see here.
50%.
50%. Okay, I'll take it. It's done. Let's see. Outside, let's see. Okay, no. We've already talked about what unfinished business means to you. Last question.
Yes.
When your family talks about you years from now, what do you hope they say? Not about what you did, but about who you were.
That was my answer. Nothing. Now that's my post-traumatic stress humor side. I hadn't really. I want my family to appreciate what I've been through and what I'm doing. I want them to think, obviously, more than just being a provider, being a father, being a husband. It's why do I get up every day? Why at the age of 80? I'm 80 now. Why do I Well, let me share that with you. I got my ham radio license when I turned 80 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't want anybody complaining that they're too old.
Yeah.
And the youngest that we know about is 5 years old. They got licensed. So there's no reason for you not to get your license.
Yeah.
But all that to say is I want to be remembered for what I accomplished after this medal. It's one thing to be a hero 30 minutes or an hour or 2 days in your life, but what do you do the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And I think that's more important to me than the claim to fame as being a war hero. I just did my job to the best I could, and for me, the rest of my life was norm for me. I did it multiple times, but it was unwitnessed. And here's something else for your viewers: people don't always get what they deserve. There's a lot more people, a lot more veterans that deserved this medal than I did. But I got it because I had witnesses that lived long enough to write my story. And their Crayolas didn't melt. But there's a lot of prejudices. There's a lot of, at every level, as you know, it can be chopped. I mean, at company level, battalion level, division level, anybody could say, oh, I don't like that guy, or I don't like his personality. I don't like his genealogy, his nationality. There's chops at every level. For somebody to get all the way through all that process, it's an undertaking. And I want everybody to know that I don't hold myself out as a hero. I feel that I'm a caregiver, care provider, and that's what I want to be remembered more for, is my ability to help others.
First of all, I want to tell you thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. Your name, I didn't share this. I probably should have led with this, but your name had been popping up on my circle around me for at least a year. Your name just kept coming up. And when I had Rex and Donna on the podcast, they mentioned you. Have you ever met? I said, no, I haven't. And then I went to an event and someone said, where's Doc Ballard? And I was like, there's that name again. There's that name again. And there's that name again. And then sorry. Then Rex reached out to me and sent me a message, and he said, hey, would you be interested in having Doc Ballard on your podcast? And sorry, I got emotion.
That's why I'm here for you.
Yeah,
What the brothers are, we're brothers.
And the fact that we're here today sharing space, when you put the podcast, I've been going through the podcast. We talked through the history of the podcast, and you work so hard. You're working hard to develop a relationship with the veteran community and develop and push veteran advocacy. And so, for your name had been popping up, like I said, all around me, and then for us to be sitting here together, it's just a great I would say a great accomplishment for the work I've been putting in and putting myself around. And I'm really thankful for you to be here today.
Well, all I have now is time to give.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
And my time is worth more to me than anything else. So
Yeah.
for me to give time to you says a lot as well. And I want to partner with you on our broadcast. We're going to start a Medal of Honor radio club.
Okay.
And I want you to become a member.
Okay, I will.
That's a promise now.
That's a promise.
Okay. All right. Hey. And in doing so, I want you to be able to handle other podcasts. I want you to have every Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning or, some Thursday night, something. You can help me because you are more in line with the type of people that I want to meet. And I want them to come on to the broadcasting station and talk about whatever they want to talk about. Maybe it's fly tying. Maybe it's fishing, trout fishing. Whatever it is, it's going to be entertaining. It's not being done out there now.
Yeah.
And so I want to be a source if I want to be known in the radio community as a source of information
Okay.
and a source of education, a source of entertainment, I just want to be a source that I like being the first on the block to do something.
Yeah.
I'm recruiting you. My job now is to recruit like-minded people that can get the word out to help others. Because most of the people that are listening to this won't take action.
Yeah.
We got to have a call for action.
Yeah.
And the call for action is get involved and help us. We can all do a little bit. We can all do a little bit more. We have it better than the average veteran or the average civilian even sometimes. So, I find the ones that give the most really have the least to give. I mean, the multimillionaires, stuff like that, they can do a hell of a lot more and they don't even have an interest.
Yeah. Colonel Ballard, thank you very much for being on Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions. I look forward to partnering with you, and we'll see how far we can take this. We'll take it to the top. And I want to say special thanks to Rex King and Donna King for hosting it here at their house. Of course, I'm gonna get you on into my studio so you can check it out, and I would love to have you there too. For those that know that how long I've been working on this to have this to be honored this way, I just want to say thank you for your support. And that's it. That's a wrap, guys. As I always say, have peace and enlighten you, and remember that the ocean refuses no river.
Unfinished business.